Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 15 of ARBinBRIEF, a practical video guide on handpicked arbitration issues. My name is İpek İnce. I'm part of the ARBinBRIEF team and practice international arbitration at 𝗔𝗥𝗕𝗙𝗥𝗕𝗙 in Istanbul. I will be moderating today's episode on the journey to arbitration appointments through tribunal secretary appointments and other ways, featuring Caroline Falconer of S3E15 Arbitration Institute and Andrea Nica of Falconer. Securing your first appointment, be it as tribunal secretary or arbitrator, can often feel like an unattainable goal. However, it's worth remembering that even the most seasoned arbitrator were once in these roles. With this episode, we aim to provide insights to help you navigate this transition, drawing from the experience of those who have successfully journeyed this path before. Without further ado, I would like to start with my first question. Andrea, how did you get your first tribunal secretary or arbitrator appointment? And can you please also share what are the key career development steps you would recommend to those who aim to experience these roles?
Hi, İpek. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation to this episode of ARBinBRIEF. I'm truly honored to participate, and I'll try to address this question from my personal experience, which has a personal touch for me, because working as counsel, I always imagine that the work of an arbitrator must be quite challenging, but very rewarding at the same time, which actually in practice proves to be the case. So first of all, I started working as tribunal secretary in the arbitration firms I worked before in Geneva, assisting partners with their cases. This was not at all predictable for me, as I thought I would be doing only counsel work. And at that time, I did not have much insight in the actual nitty-gritty activities of an arbitrator or tribunal secretary. However, I seized every opportunity I had to learn more about the field, and I'm grateful I had the chance to collaborate with arbitrators who sit in some high-profile cases and who were incredible mentors. One dispute that I fondly remember was between a Polish company and a German company concerning the selling of a machine that wrapped chocolate. The German party, as the buyer and claimant, asserted that in the wrapping process, the machine destroyed the chocolate. The Polish party, as manufacturer and respondent, claimed that the chocolate had the wrong composition, reason why it could not withhold a normal pressure or temperature from the wrapping machine, and thus the chocolate would melt and destroy the packaging. The parties eventually settled, but the initial chase for an expert who could prove guidance on the technical part was quite a ride. So when it comes to obtaining tribunal secretary appointments, my story is usually the obvious one. But the international arbitration community has been changing, traditionally dominated by arbitration teams in large firms. I've seen there has been in recent years an ever-increasing trend towards smaller arbitration boutiques and independent arbitrators. Thus, another way would be through word of mouth to obtain tribunal secretary appointments, or to the tribunal secretary platform, which was launched in March 2024 by the Swiss Arbitration Association, ASA, in connection with the Youth Connect. In order to connect arbitrators and tribunal secretaries for independent collaborations, thus evolving the tribunal secretary selection with technology, inclusivity, and transparency. This platform, I've seen, helps arbitrator find the right tribunal secretary for a specific case through an efficient search based on filters such as bar admission, location, language skills, and others. As such, it makes profile of tribunal secretaries visible, searchable, and easily accessible to arbitrators around the globe. Secondly, my first appointment as arbitrator, which I could accept without a conflict, was a 𝗔𝗥𝗕𝗙 case between two Romanian parties. What I suspect that likely made me an interesting candidate for an appointment by the institution was my dual Swiss-Romanian qualification, and the fact that I had practiced for some years in litigation arbitration in a large firm in Romania and had academic experience in relation to the subject matter of the dispute, having written before my bachelor's thesis in relation to that topic. As everyone in the field is aware, arbitrator appointments are quite difficult to obtain. And of course, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this path. However, I would arguably say that for someone working in private practice like me, one needs a mix of three main ingredients. The right academic qualifications, such as an LLM. For instance, I did the MIT program back in 2018. The relevant experience in exposure in the right law firms with the right arbitration practitioners who have a good arbitration practice, either as counsel or tribunal secretary, or otherwise. And of course, visibility and a pinch of luck. That is being the right person at the right time. That comes to the mind of a counsel, either through a third-party channel, a recommendation, or knowledge from a specific event, or from an arbitration institution which believes that your profile would be appropriate for a particular dispute.
Thank you. That was very helpful, Andrea. And turning back to Caroline, from an institution perspective, do you think what are the most important qualities or criteria to consider when appointing arbitrators? And especially for first-time arbitrators, do you value previous tribunal secretary work?
Yes, and the short answer is yes, we do. It's a very good experience to sit as a tribunal secretary in a large, complex case. You get to see a lot, you get to learn a lot, you have a great experience with you to your first arbitrator appointment. Having that said, we don't see that many tribunal secretaries under the S3E rules. We see them mainly in investment cases or in complex arbitrations, quite often in construction disputes, but not in the ordinary commercial case, the commercial dispute at the S3E. So I would say that the first time arbitrators being appointed under the S3E rules are very seldom experienced tribunal secretaries. We try to find well, it is I think it's something it's a responsibility, I would say, for the arbitration institutes to give the first appointments to new arbitrators. It's very few first-time arbitrators getting that first assignment from the parties or from the co-arbitrators. That is something we at the Secretariat work hard to widen the pool of arbitrators. So I would say the best recommendation I have is to make sure you're visible. And you can do that in very many different ways, but make sure the Secretariat, in whichever institute you are working, make sure they know you and know that you are a good lawyer. And as Andrea said, there's a dual qualification is spot on in the arbitration world, of course. If you have language skills, make sure the Secretariat knows about that. Citizenships or experience from different countries. If you have experience from different sectors, that's very interesting as well, especially if you have, we quite often have green technology, we have energy related disputes. If you have experience in relation to those areas, make sure that is clear in your CV and reach out to us. And I get emails every week, a couple of emails every week from would-be arbitrators, arbitrator candidates. And I love that because that is a way of making sure we understand that these people are out there. Some people, of course, are from jurisdictions that we are not that interested in, where we don't have cases, we don't have parties. But if you come from a jurisdiction, you know that the S3E is working closely with, and that are quite a number of jurisdictions. But if you know you are in that area, please make sure you are registered at the arbitrators registry, at the S3E website. You are attending the events, you are reaching out. If you meet any of us from the Secretariat at an event, come by, say hi, make sure you get to know us. And this is something I see quite a lot from men, but very, very seldom from women. So I have coffee every week with male arbitrators, but very few of those meetings are actually with female arbitrators.
Very spot on. I actually wanted to ask you, Caroline, how many emails you receive from women? Because, for instance, I never thought of doing that.
No, maybe 10%. 10, just a hunch.
Well, with ARBinBRIEF, we try to change that at least. And Caroline, you touch upon how we can make ourselves visible, and moving on that direction, how arbitral institutions, or we as the arbitration community at large, can better support expanding the pool of arbitrators and tribunal secretaries, do you think?
Was that a question for me?
Yeah, yes,
I would
please.
say yes, and that is something we are working on at the SSC, because we need to have a wide pool of arbitrators. We need to be able to find the best arbitrators for the case, and we need to make sure that we are getting young arbitrators becoming mid-level, becoming senior as well. So what I would say is make sure you attend the trainings we have at the SSC. We have a diploma course for international arbitrators. We have arbitrator trainings for Swedish-speaking arbitrators. And I know that most institutions work in this way. Make sure you attend the trainings, and make sure you also attend the events. So if there is a breakfast morning event or a lunch event, make sure you go there to get visible in relation to the institute. And from our perspective, when we give these trainings, these longer trainings for becoming arbitrator, we also try to make sure that these participants in the training are actually getting the first chance to be appointed as an arbitrator. We might not be successful every time for that. We might not have the cases for it, but we always try to make sure that you at least get a chance to have your first arbitrator appointment through the SSC.
No, thank you. That was very helpful. And my last question is to Andrea. You have substantial experience as a tribunal secretary. How was that background influenced your approach to selecting arbitrators for appointments, and what unique insights do you bring to the process?
Well, working as tribunal secretary and of course as arbitrator later, I think gives you another perspective about how an arbitration goes than as a counsel. So you learn how to structure the proceedings. You're mindful about the parties' times and money, and what kind of expertise is important for a particular dispute in rendering the award. But of course, it also helps with recommendations later on, as you have seen how certain arbitrators work and how they handle a particular matter. You learn how to sort of strategically select an arbitrator based on some key matters in their CV, be it a particular cultural experience they have due to their nationality or prior studies, which maybe at first glance does not seem very obvious in the overall development of the proceedings, but in the overall development of the proceedings later on proves quite useful. For instance, in the chocolate dispute I mentioned before, the Polish party had insisted very much on having an expert who was listed as such on an official court list. This might seem strange at first for someone who practices exclusively international arbitration or in jurisdiction with a different way of doing things, but the practice of having experts appointed by the court in litigation from a pre-registered list is actually quite common, for instance, in Eastern Europe, including Romania. Furthermore, my background as tribunal secretary also informally helped me with network building and gave me access to a wider community which informally shares their experience with some arbitrators. As we all know, reputation is important in this field, and news travel fast.
Thank you. Yeah, very much so. Thank you very much both for this incredibly insightful section. As I said, we only had 15 minutes, and now we need to wrap up this session. But before we wrap up, we would like to thank our partner organization, 𝗔𝗥𝗕𝗙, and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce International Arbitration Center for their invaluable support in making Season 3 possible. We are also truly grateful to the many organizations that support the marketing of our series all around the world. For those who are watching us over YouTube, our video ends here. Thank you for joining us. To see future ARBinBRIEF videos on handpicked arbitration issues, please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe our channel on YouTube.